Good evening and welcome once again, and thank you for joining us. This is the Teen Talk Show on Walkia TV, and I'm your host Adam Yusuf. Uh, we have made a few changes with our program, so do watch us live this on every Saturday on our Facebook page at Walkia TV, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned next weekend. Today on the program, we are going to hold discussions on the effects of flooding in Ghana. I have with me in studio Mrs. Zubaida Iddris. She's a student from the University of Education, Winneba, and also she's a teacher at Watania Islamic School. Yeah, so Madam Zubaida, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, today we are going to hold discussions on the effects of flooding in Ghana. But before that, there are instances, or should I say, we have cases whereby um, we have losses of life, property due to flooding in Ghana. I mean, just recently, there was this heavy downpour in Accra, and cars and properties were lost. So, before we actually talk about the effects of flooding in Ghana, first of all, let's look at the causes. Okay, what actually causes flooding in Ghana?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let me first of all greet your viewers.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Floods usually happens, or should I say, it usually happens in the rainy seasons, especially in Ghana,
Yeah,
and it is being caused by a lot of, should I say, negligence or whatever
yeah.
on our path as humans,
Mhm.
because floods are normally the excess waters that cannot be accommodated by the rivers and those streams around us.
Yeah.
They are
Recently we
that
had
finds its
yeah
ways on the ground.
yeah recently
So
we had this we had a public view at the Ababo Palele and the Palele River. Yeah,
yeah,
people were expressing their views that when it rains, the condition there is unbearable, and in fact they couldn't even stay at their houses. Yeah. So
and
what do you think are some of the causes?
from my view, I think some of the causes are poor planning of towns and cities.
Poor planning
Of
of
towns
towns
and
and
cities.
cities. Okay, how would you explain on that a little bit?
You gave an example as to that of Ababu Pelele.
No.
You and I know that if you pass there, you see some structures there that are not needed.
Okay, like you're talking about the buildings, right?
Yes, those structures there, some wooden structures are being constructed over the banks of the rivers,
Mhm.
which is not, it shouldn't have been there
Okay.
because that specific area is an waterlogged area.
Mhm.
And each person who goes there or knows that particular place knows that it's not good for settlements, especially wooden structures.
Okay.
But they risk their life to the extent of building those structures around it. And whenever there is a heavy rainfall,
Mhm.
it definitely causes a flood over there.
Yeah.
So if they really think about themselves and really know what they want, they should better leave the place and shouldn't think of being stay in the city or because they want to be around the town, but should rather save their lives and find a better place for themselves.
Okay.
And so
So
going back to our discussion, the poor planning of towns.
yeah.
Most at times we Africans don't take the town planning is very important,
Mhm.
unlike other countries.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to building, there are a lot of things that needs to be considered.
Yeah,
Especially,
especially the environment
yeah,
and the settlement.
that is true. And even sometimes the kind of structure, if you are about to build, I know for sure that you need to even have somebody who will test the texture of the soil over the place
Okay.
to know the kind of structure that fits where you need to build. It
Okay.
shouldn't be like because you acquired the land, so you need to get whatever you want to be built on it.
Yeah,
Or
I get your
because
idea. So,
yeah,
for example, just to avoid building in a waterlogged area,
yeah,
as you did mention about when there is an expert who actually knows the the texture of the land, he could sense and feel that okay, this place is waterlogged,
Yeah.
and when it gets to the rainy season, it will be catastrophic or it will be
That is true. That is very
tragedy.
true.
So your first point is the poor planning of towns
In
and
cities.
cities. Okay, thank you. What
And
is your
then
next point?
and then also I think poor drainage system is also another problem
The poor drainage
in
system.
systems
Okay.
as to how and where it should be constructed. Definitely, as humans, we have excess, we uses waters, we use those waste used ones.
Yeah.
So it should have a proper place or where we should be disposing those
So you are talking about
the gutters where it's an a waterlogged area, it needs bridges,
Mhm.
and those buildings around them use big gutters.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be very close. At least it should be, and it should be
So,
depth. It
like
shouldn't
we are
be.
talking about something that will be sustainable for the
Yes.
specific environment, right?
Yes.
But right now, we are talking about a drainage system, like the poor drainage system as a cause of flood.
Mm.
But what about our character? Because I can see that at some point we have these drainage systems, but it is filled with rubbish
And
and
that one is true. That choked the gutters sometimes, so that it's very hard for the water to flow.
yeah.
That is true. And to me, I think all these things can be avoided if only we decide to avoid them
Okay.
by disposing those rubbish, those fields that we know that it need not to go to the gutters or to the rivers. We should know where to place each the like fields where it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't always be in the gutters.
So we are talking about we should change our character, right,
Yeah.
towards the habit of disposing refuse anywhere, or some people literally wait till it rains. That is when they will
Yes,
bring
that
out
one
their
is true.
dumps and their refuse.
And sometimes I don't blame them much. It all goes back to the poor planning, or should I say the buildings.
Yeah, the
That
poor planning.
yes, because there are some buildings that are houses that it's built for tenants, purposely meant for rent. But yet still, the owner or the landlord or the landlady will never provide for toilet facilities. It will only just be that of bathroom,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even sharing the bathroom is also another problem.
a big problem because,
Yes.
for example, if you consider our Zomo community today, you'll see that most of the houses don't have this toilets.
That one is true. It's very true.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem. Considering yourself having kids, sharing one bathroom with, let's say, more than 5 tenants who also have children. Even if you want to go out early, you need to wait, because if someone is there, you have to wait till it's your turn before you go out there.
Yeah.
So sometimes we shouldn't just blame the tenants or people around. We should also consider such things to at least avoid some things that is avoidable.
Okay, so the second point is the poor drainage system. Okay, what else?
And let's say for architecture,
Poor architecture.
yes,
Okay.
as to how the house are designed.
Mhm.
An architect is always like we see that person as imaginative. He
Like
imagines,
they are creative.
yeah, they create. So such person going through the education and becoming a professional will know the kind of building that fits the area,
Yeah.
and then also even know the weather climate, where to build it, how it should face to be able to sustain the.
Yeah, you gave a good example initially. You talk about someone who could even identify the nature of the environment and kind of understand, okay, this place is a waterlogged area, and I wouldn't advise you to build or to construct a building there. For example, like places like the Tafu and Hira areas, you see when it rains, some places are waterlogged, and you see people building. So yes, poor architecture, or should I say, poor architecture also leads to the flooding. Okay, what else?
And then also heavy rainfall. We know heavy rainfall are natural,
Yeah.
and we do expect them usually in June, July. So at least knowing where you stay, where you spend your life, or maybe let's say you go to rest in the evening, you should know that this is where I stay. And around this time, definitely there will be a rainfall. If not today, it might be tomorrow, or maybe the following week, or whatever should I say.
Yeah.
But we tend
So
out,
negligence, right?
yeah, we behave as if, oh, all is well. Even if it rains, definitely
You will
the
be okay.
yeah. But it need not to be that. We should plan ahead. We should
Yeah.
start thinking and plan ahead of what is good for us.
Okay.
We shouldn't always wait for when things happen. Then we go to the government. I need government, so we are begging the government to come and help. They're not moves. There are some things that we can just avoid
Yeah, true.
from if we become very vigilant and do what is expected of us.
Yeah, thank you. And what would be your final point on the courses?
My final point, let's say, non-enforcement of laws on building constructions.
Okay.
As I said earlier on, poor planning of towns and those architecture, if their laws are being enforced on the citizens,
Yeah.
like if you acquire land, this is how it's supposed to be built, this is what we require from you. House has to get a toilet, has to get this. Maybe if it should get a dustbin for the whole house,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that
true.
they will be disposing of their refuse
Refuse
and
and
everything
waste.
in it, those waste. There should be a drainage in the house. Those pipes, they should lay pipes down for those waste waters to run through it. So it's proper we enforce, we start enforcing them to avoid
So you're
some.
actually talking about that there should be some kind of a policy,
Yeah,
or should I say we should? Okay, the policies might be there. There should be
they are there. Yes,
enforcement of those laws to ensure that buildings are properly constructed, which include proper drainage system, the toilets, right?
Yeah.
And a disposable can, or should I say, a refuse,
Yes.
or a dumpster. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Viewers, we hope you are with us. We are actually talking about the effects of flooding in Ghana. But to start with, our guest for today, first of all, talked about some of the causes of flooding in Ghana. She did mention about the improper planning of towns and cities, and also the poor drainage system. She did mention about the poor architecture and also heavy rainfall as a cause of flooding. And finally, she did mention about the enforcement of laws on building construction. So considering all of these causes, it could lead to flooding,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the effects. What do you think are some of the potential effects when there is an overflow of water, or should I say, flooding occurs?
Whenever there is a flood, definitely, whether we like it or not, it has its effects on us. If mostly it leads to loss of life and property.
Okay.
If you are around, I stayed around Mushizongo where we saw those things happen.
Those kind of incidents.
Yes. Sometimes you hear that, oh, the water, somebody has drowned in the water. Lost People lost their lives several times, being the properties, the water, how it comes with force, it moves vehicles. How do I describe them?
Yeah, houses.
Yes, houses. It it drowns houses.
Yeah, because the reality is when it rains like that, and when there is an flooding or overflow of water, the area that you just cited, like the Mushizungu,
Yeah.
yeah, I once had that kind of experience. When it rains, even those filling stations around tend to feel the impact of the rain.
Even before those filling stations, it usually happens. So we people were expecting them to at least make proper ways, and to our surprise, there was some filling stations around that area, which is also a very bad thing that they did.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
it
advise
is
that,
not
because
proper.
lives has been lost, properties has been lost. So they should have rather find a way of saving such lives and properties around them, not to add some more problem to what is
Or what could
happening here.
potentially
Yeah,
cause more
yeah,
damage.
that is happening already.
Okay. So first of all, the loss of lives and properties as the effect, as one of the effects of flooding. Okay. What else?
Destruction of crops.
The destruction of crops.
Yes.
Okay. How would you expand on that?
When there is a heavy rainfall and the floods comes with its force, the water comes, it is forcing its way because
So
it's
this is
not the way.
basically this is mean, or should I? This is a negative effect on the farmers. Right?
Yes, yeah, it goes to the farmers because with the force that it comes, it's not the way, it's not the usual way it passes. It's just finding its way there. So it cuts. How do I say? There is definitely going to be an erosion over there, which will
Yeah.
destroy all those crops around it. Many farmers lost during race seasons if
Yeah.
they don't plan ahead of that.
Mhm.
So it's hard time. We also plan, as I said earlier on, you should prepare before the time because definitely you know at around this season or this month, things like this usually happen. So what do I do before that thing happened to me? I had to prepare myself, plan, and know how to go about my farming before the time comes and push away all my crops or my harvest.
So we should strategically have a good planning system for farming.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. But the effect is the loss of crops.
Yes, definitely. When your crops are not, when the rain and wash them out,
Yeah,
definitely
definitely
it will
wash
affect
the
your,
top. It will
yes,
wash the topsoil.
yeah.
So that is also an effect of flooding,
Yeah,
specifically on the farmers.
farmers,
Okay.
yes.
And what else?
Then also, when it washes away, definitely the fertility in the soil will get lost. It
So the
wouldn't be
loss of
the
soil
soil
fertility.
fertility, yes. It will get lost. It will not be sustained. It cannot sustain the crops and make the crops or the foods that we will consume become healthy enough for us. And it will not even bear fruits or ripe as it should have been. And it's just also another loss for the farmer. So as I said, it's best you prepare before time.
Yeah, but I think when you talk about the loss of soil fertility, I think that wouldn't be just an effect on the farmer. I think it would be an effect to the entire nation, or should I say to
Oh
the entire
yeah,
community, because the farmers are supposed to have definitely good soil
yeah,
fertility in order to increase
and
production.
even apart from the farmers, there are areas when there is a heavy rain, it washes away through erosion. The place causes some kind of holes, or should I say
Potholes.
potholes around, destruction of roads, main roads especially.
Yeah, just recently, this western region, I think 3 days ago, yeah, they had to suffer from this kind of damage due to heavy downfall.
And it also causes around areas when you pass there, you see that there is some small holes around it on the roads where you can see that it was washed out. The soils has been washed out by rains. So it's hard time we find a solution to such problem that we know that it's natural and it will happen whether we like it or not. But how to reduce
Like
how
the damages,
yes the
the
damages it will
effects.
cause, the effects, so as to prevent certain things.
Yeah,
Not
we'll get to that.
okay.
We'll get to that. So you have talked about the loss of soil fertility. What is your final point in terms of the effects of flooding?
Mostly these days, you see that a crop it make the environment very filthy.
Yeah,
It make the environment, as you said before. You said when most people wait when it's raining, then they
that
will
is when
comes
they
out.
that is when they have this idea that
Mm.
okay, that is where she has to um uh recycle. Yeah, that is when they have to recycle, whether it is edification, whether it is refuse dump, whatever it was, any kind of waste which has been packed in the house. They
Has to come
literally,
out.
yeah, they literally wait when it begins to rain. That is when they have to recycle all of these waste in the rain, in the running water, bearing in mind that this water, or let's say the rubbish or the refuse, will go and also choke or block the water waste.
Definitely, it will choke. It will choke the gutters. around you. If it's not choked at your place, definitely will choke at somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's hard time we quit some characters that
We
we
change
want
our
to,
character.
we
Yeah.
quit it. Not just him, but we should quit it at all and not just think of doing it. Because you, let's imagine yourself being surrounded around fields. How do you feel?
Even regardless of the physical waste and the field, or should I say, um, the refuse which is being compacted by the rain, the running water, even the environment begins to have this kind of bad scents and odor around everywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even that, if you dispose in those rivers or whatever, knowing perfectly well that those rivers go to some villages, it runs through some villages. That is what the same water that those people there consumes. That is what they use for their
Their
washing,
basic
their
needs.
basic needs. So
Yeah.
why do you do that? So why do you cause those harms to those people? And I've even learned that through those water, it sometimes cause waterborne diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes it even cause hepatitis A. I
Mm-hmm.
learned so.
Yeah.
So why do we hurt ourselves? You might be there, you go to hospital and you might be diagnosed with some kind of illness that you might
Which
think that,
might be even waterborne,
yes,
right?
you might be wondering, how did I get this? How did it happen? Not knowing that your own mistakes that you did has caused you those kind of illness or brought those kind of
Yeah, at the end of
disease
the, at the,
again.
at the end of the day, it is the same filthy water which is being processed and
Yes, from
transformed.
for us to drink,
Yeah.
definitely, because it's the same water that you go to the barricades and those places, you find them using those
Heavy machines
machines to the to
to
take up,
transform,
yes,
yeah,
take up the
transform it.
fields. They
Yeah.
use the filters to clear the dirt. But definitely, if you get something small, you consume it. You definitely have to consume it.
Yeah, so filthy environment as an
Okay.
effect of
Yes,
flooding.
yes, yes.
Yeah, viewers, we just actually summarize the effect of flooding in Ghana. First off, you did mention about the loss of life and property. That is an obvious effect, and that is something which is a verifiable fact that people say it immediately there is flooding, and also the destruction of crops and the soil erosion, the loss of soil fertility, and finally, she did mention about the filthy environment, which we can see it is something which is very obvious whenever there is flooding within the community. Now, let's talk about the solutions. We did mention about we should change our character, we should change our attitude, we should kind of, we are talking about change, but let's talk about some sustainable solutions. What do you think are some of the solutions or things we should do, or things the government should do, or things we should put in practice which could help at least to reduce the effects of flooding?
To plan the towns and cities proper.
Proper planning of towns and cities.
Yes, we should
Okay.
plan them properly, especially if we can just manage with those ones in the cities,
Yeah.
but with the new places, it should be planned very well, very carefully. And I I say, I will suggest that the kings or the chiefs, those who own lands,
So those who are
should
in charge of selling the
the lands
land,
should at least employ or to get a good proper town planner to
yeah.
help them plan the places and the kind of structures which is which is good for the place and how to implement such things. If they go to the surveying department, they'll get those people around the surveying department around June. You get those offices, you go there, seek for their consultation.
So to
They will
seek
assist you.
expert
Yes,
advice, right?
yes, to seek for them so that they explain and help you with whatever structure you want to build to avoid such things
Okay.
happening in the
So
future.
the proper planning of towns and cities, and you did emphasize on those in charge or those in authority in terms of selling or giving out lands should make sure that people are properly constructing or
Yes,
doing new
because
constructions on the land.
sometimes when there is heavy rainfall and those drainages are being blocked, sometimes it forces the river to and the water, the flood to areas where It is not like the buildings naturally need not to be flooded, but because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are
I
wasted.
understand. Yeah, same because the water path has actually been blocked by either refuse or something or building. Because sometimes when there is improper building, as you did mention, and there's the poor planning of towns and cities, if buildings are being constructed on waterways, definitely the water has to find a different path or a different
Yeah.
route, which could be places, even places where shouldn't have been flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the proper planning of towns and cities is actually a really good point, and I think it's something those in authorities should ensure and have a proper account on it. So what else?
Property construction drainage systems,
Okay,
as we talked about
the
in
proper construction of drainage systems.
yes. Drainages should be constructed around us because we are always using those things and it's very important. It's part of our lives.
Yeah,
So we should consider them. We shouldn't just be ignoring such things. We should take them into consideration and do it as proper as it should be. And if it needs maintenance, we should maintain. We should do such maintenance. If it needs adjustment to accommodate the flood, we should. Where there is a need for us to do bridges, we should build those bridges. And when there is a need for the place to get gutters, it should get gutters. If it needs bigger gutters or smaller ones, we should do it properly to avoid such things
yeah,
happening in future.
like the Abu Abu Palili
Yeah,
River. Yeah, you
yeah.
see, looking at the environment, you can easily predict that it requires a bigger drainage path, or should I say, a bigger bridge, like the Monshizondo. It requires,
Yeah, it's everywhere. And it's even in the city, not even a village. It's
yeah,
in the middle of
the
the
urban
cities.
centers,
Yeah, in the
even
middle of the cities where they need to
where
be.
we think it is even more advanced.
These are the things that happen. Nakra, Kumasi, Tapra, the big cities, things like this are happening, which is very bad.
Yeah. Okay, so the the proper construction of drainage systems, right? Okay, let's move to an explain
And this, the residential areas, there's been bigger dustbins for them to dispose of their refuse. We should also at least consider those deprived areas where, or should I say, the populated areas also. We shouldn't just only think of the estates or the those rich men area.
yeah,
Let me
the
use that word.
like the new sites.
Yeah, new sites. We should also consider the bigger towns where people are populated. That is the very places that we have such problems. So at least, even if it's a house or three in a house to share one bigger dustbin and make arrangements for them to be paying it monthly, weekly, or whatever you want to do it in such a way that it will be easier for them to afford them to pay.
So at this point, your emphasis is on the sanitation.
Yes.
There should be an
And,
effective sanitation
and
system.
even apart from getting those dustbin, they should know how to place each field. If it is the rubbish
The
containers, the
plastic.
plastic containers, it should get its own way. The thing should get where it should be, papers, um, excess foods, everything
Yeah,
should be disposed of accordingly.
yeah, just to ensure an easy
Yes,
recycling
yes.
system. Yeah. So education, right?
Mm.
Basically, education is actually very important in terms of giving people the highlights, or should I say, the insights of keeping the environment very clean. Okay, what else?
It's good we start employing our architects
Mhm.
to do our job, what they should be doing for us. Proper architecture, a good architect or a professional architect know what it's good for your building, how it should lay the pipes, how the building should be built, and how where to dispose of.
So, like a proper architectural work, right?
Yeah.
We should ensure, in the courses we did mention about the poor, was it poor architecture?
Yeah.
So with a solution, there should be a proper architecture. Yeah. So proper architectural work. And what will be your final point before we close for the day?
My final word, I would say we should enforce the laws of building constructions.
Mhm.
Every town or every country has its own laws, basically for building and constructions. So it's hard time we start enforcing them. If they say if persuasion fails, force must be applied. So
Okay.
we've been persuaded enough. So it's time for them to enforce the laws on us, so as to do the proper thing to avoid loss of lives, properties, and those things that we've been losing through floods,
Flooding.
and to save ourselves from always going back to reconstructions. Know how to manage to at least save for something better for the country to
Yeah.
also enjoy from it.
So the law enforcement on building constructions. Okay. So before we actually wrap up for the day, Mrs. Zubaida actually gave us some impressive solutions to flooding. First off, she did mention about the proper planning of towns and cities. So basically, she did mention that towns and cities should be properly planned or arranged, and the proper construction of drainage system and education on the proper disposal of refuse, the proper architectural work, and also the enforcement of laws on building constructions. So basically, those are the some solutions, or should I say, impressive solutions to flooding in Ghana. Madam Zubaida, you have educated us on the causes of flooding, the effects, and also the solutions. What would be your final point, or what do you think the government is not doing, or what do you have to say, or what is your final submission?
I wouldn't say the government is not doing anything. He's doing his best. But as a citizens, all I would say is our life matters. We shouldn't wait for things to happen before we go begging the government to help us. But at least we should prepare ahead
Okay.
and save our lives.
Yeah.
Those living around the river banks, knowing perfectly well that when it rains, these things will happen, should at least try as much as possible to settle somewhere where they think is good, even if it's not in town, at least a bit far from where you lived before. It's not anything to save yourself and your family. Think of them first. Don't think about maybe the expenditure involved in where you want to go, but at least saving yourself and your family.
Okay, so basically our lives matters.
Matters
Yeah.
the most.
So Madam Zubaida's final message is our lives matters. We should take precautions in terms of where we construct our buildings or our residential areas. Yeah. So people, viewers, that's it for today. We actually held discussions on the effects of flooding in Ghana, but we further discussed the causes and some solutions.
To it.
Yeah. So to be a sponsor or a co-sponsor of this program, do contact any of our administrative members or email on our Facebook page at Walkia TV, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And now we have rescheduled or rechanged the time for this program. Now it will be on every Saturdays at 4 p.m. GMT instead of Sundays. I think that's it for now, and that's it for today. But I was glad. Do you have any final statements? Okay.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think this is the second time for coming, right?
Yes,
Yeah, thank you
yes.
very much for joining again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, really appreciate your time and your efforts. So that's it for today. I'm Adam Yusuf. Have a great day.